So from a marketing ops perspective, what we're really focusing on right now is pursuit content management and finding a pursuit content management solution. So obviously the advent of AI has changed and will continue to change the way that we work. We recognize that there's a tremendous opportunity by leveraging technology to make the process of pulling proposals together much more efficient so we can really focus on the strategic content.
Welcome to the Bold Brand Show. If you're in the AEC industry and want to grow your firm, we're sharing exactly how bold and innovative firms win more. The sad truth is, most firms that are struggling in the AEC industry are still doing things the way we've always done them. But this show is about finding a better way. I'm your host and founder of Bold Brand, Josh Miles. I'm a published author, veteran of the TEDx stage, and a brand strategist with over 25 years of experience. But my superpower is my focus on AEC firms to understand how branding and marketing in the professional services industries is wildly different than for retail brands like Apple, Amazon, or Starbucks. So in this podcast, we're going deep with AEC firm leaders, marketers, and innovators in the AEC industry. We'll focus on the hottest topics and trends in AEC to uncover the growth secrets of the most successful firms and how firms can create lasting legacies and perhaps what the future has in store. Today's show is brought to you by Open Asset and Shred AI. AEC pursuits are more competitive than ever, and the best firms know it's not just about what you say, but how you say it. That's why leading AEC marketers are turning to Open Asset, the industry's go-to platform for managing project photos, staff resumes, and marketing files, all in one easy-to-search place. And now Open Asset is even more powerful with Shred AI, the AI-powered proposal writing tool purpose-built for AEC workflows. With Open Asset and Shred AI, your team can instantly surface past proposal content, draft, edit, and polish responses with AI, seamlessly pull in project visuals and resumes, and eliminate the busy work so you can focus on the storytelling. Together, they're transforming how AEC marketers win work faster, smarter, and with fewer late nights. Visit openasset.com/shred to learn more. Thanks again to Open Asset. Today's episode is brought to you by Fox Photo Studios. Do you ever wish your video podcast could just look a little more professional, or that the process was just a little easier? I get it. I mean, when I started the Bold Brand Show, I was setting up everything in my home office. Before I could ever hit record, I had to rearrange the furniture, the camera gear, and the lights before each and every episode, and then tear it all down again when I was done. That's why I opened Fox Photo Studios. It's all set up for me just to show up and start recording. So now after a year of planning and build out, it's all open and ready for you and your team to use too. Welcome to Fox Photo Studios. Of course, your show could look a little like this, or even something like this. And if you're really fancy, you can bring your own neon sign. And it's not just for podcasts. Fox Photo Studios is a fully equipped studio, great for corporate videos, commercial productions, or even photo shoots. Best of all, we're just north of Metro Denver near I-25 and I-70. So follow Fox Photo Studios on Instagram or visit foxphotostudios.com to book your next project. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to the Bold Brand Show. We're back today with Michelle Ott, who's the Vice President of Marketing Operations for JE Dunn Construction. Michelle Ott, CPSM, began her career in AEC in 1997 at a Denver-based architecture firm, and in 2002 joined JE Dunn Construction as their first Colorado-based marketing coordinator. That's a big deal. Currently serving as the Vice President of Marketing Operations, her responsibilities include strategic planning, development of pursuit and communication strategies, and enhancing marketing operations nationwide. I've known Michelle for a few years from SMPS, where she's served in a variety of roles, including SMPS Colorado Past President, and last year won the very prestigious Leonardo Award. Congrats again on that.
Thank you.
I'm excited to be here in your backyard. I mean, Denver, not literally in your backyard. I don't live in your backyard. I have my own house. But you know what I mean. Michelle, welcome to the Bold Brand Show.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Yeah, it's so nice to have you here. On this show, generally, as I tell people all the time, we're talking to leaders and innovators and marketers in the AEC space to hear some of the successes that you've had, learnings that you've had, and
Mhm.
maybe some of the boldest moves that you've made in your career. Specifically today, we'll be digging into topics around leadership and marketing operations, and maybe even a little bit of the future of the AEC industry.
Great. Looking forward to it.
It's not incredibly common in our industry for somebody to stay at one firm for a really long time, as you have. And so I'm curious to hear about your career path and your current role at JE Dunn. And maybe before we jump all the way into your story, just for our viewers who are kind of around the country, give them a little overview of JE Dunn for anyone who's maybe not familiar with, the size of the company, your offices and people and those kind of things.
Sure. So JE Dunn Construction is a large commercial general contractor. We have 26 offices across the U.S. We are typically ranked among the top 10 general contractors in the country, 26 offices nationwide. We are just shy of 6,000 people, and I'm expecting revenues of around $8 billion this year. From a career standpoint, you mentioned that it's unusual for someone to stay at the same place for as long as I have, but JE Dunn has just really done a fantastic job of creating a growth path for marketing professionals. And it allowed me to grow from being the first Denver-based marketing coordinator to now being able to oversee national marketing operations for the firm.
Having been on staff with SMPS headquarters, I've nerded out on a lot of the history of SMPS and the marketing sort of various associations in the AEC space, and specifically how marketing fit into that.
Hmm.
As an association, we're just over 50 years old. So,
Hmm.
prior to that, this profession was sort of looked down upon in a very real way. It was kind of like almost deemed illegal in some ways, or was certainly frowned upon that people would pitch their services or would put out an
Right.
ad to promote a professional service. So like, as other industries listen to conversations about AEC, like may seem unremarkable that there's a path for people to get to stay in the marketing role in a firm, but there are a lot of big firms that haven't gotten to that point yet.
Yeah, and that's true, and it's interesting because when you think about kind of the four pillars of just standard business, so businesses outside of AEC, the four primary groups are finance, HR, operations, and marketing.
Yeah.
And I think that we've definitely witnessed that lag in the industry because of some of the limitations that existed within the industry for so long that, the being prohibited from marketing your firm. And so it has taken us some time to be able to get to that space where we are kind of an equal part of that quad in typical businesses.
Yeah, I think what's particularly interesting about your path is going from the first marketing chair ever in Denver
Mhm.
to now leading the national marketing operations. What was that journey like?
Well, I will say, when I started in this industry, I can't say that I thought there'd be a career path for me. It definitely started as a job, as many of us do in this industry. And so it has been a windy path, a zigzag path. It definitely has not been a straight on. When I started JE Dunn, marketing coordinator was the only role that you could have. There was no real clear path for growth. And so really just kind of the incremental expansion of what that role could look like, what it can look like beyond a support role as more of a strategic function. And so not even just creating, just kind of linear tiers of marketing coordinator to senior coordinator to marketing manager, where now I've kind of gone in this tangent and done this like lateral shift into marketing operations, specialty that I don't even think we would have had on the radar maybe 5, 7 years ago.
Mhm. So, what does marketing operations practically look like on a day to day basis? And how much time are you spending kind of on more local, regional issues versus things that are happening in other field offices?
Well, I'm going to start out by kind of describing marketing operations on more of a philosophical level. And so it really has to do with the optimization and enhancement of basically winning work in our industry. And so it's all that foundational activity that needs to be done, leveraging best in class technologies, leaning into data and actionable insights, and then creating innovative processes. And so from a philosophical level, that's what it looks like. on a day-to-day basis, it has to do with implementing, evolving, maintaining large-scale systems such as our customer relationship management systems, client experience systems, management systems that we use to manage pursuit efforts, also how we manage things from content to workflow within the marketing space.
So tell us a little bit, in addition to like marketing operations, what does the marketing team as a whole look like at JE Dunn, and how are they kind of distributed around the country?
Yeah, we actually have a pretty robust marketing team at JE Dunn, and again, this is another reason. It's not meant to be a JE Dunn advertisement, but they've done a really great job of really seeing the vision of what marketing can be and allowing us to grow in that direction. The way we're structured today is we have a national marketing lead, and we have six geographical and vertical market focused regions, and then we have four national groups. And so marketing operations exists within that national force. So we've got marketing operations, corporate creative, corporate marketing, and corporate communications. And then our six regional groups are the West, East, Midwest, South Central. And then we've got our advanced facilities group. So that's kind of a more market focus versus geographical focus, and our national healthcare group. And so all of those groups roll up to a national director. And you had mentioned, what are my responsibilities on a regional level? I just still serve as the marketing director for the West region. So I'm actually quite fortunate that I get to see really that kind of cradle to grave activity of marketing. So laying the foundation, creating the infrastructure for pipeline tracking, gathering insights on our clients, and applying those insights in the physical pursuit and capture process as well. So I still have that benefit, that lens of cradle to grave.
The pursuit piece is such a huge part of marketing in most AEC firms. How much are you getting your hands dirty in overseeing those specific functions? And is that mostly just in the West region then?
Yeah, so I will say it kind of varies. So from a marketing ops perspective, what we're really focusing on right now is pursuit content management and finding a pursuit content management solution. So obviously the advent of AI has changed and will continue to change the way that we work. We recognize that there's a tremendous opportunity by leveraging technology to make the process of pulling proposals together much more efficient, so we can really focus on the strategic content and the varying medias of delivery. So that's one a little kind of hands-off way I get to deal with pursuits. In the West, I'm still involved in early pre-positioning campaigns and leveraging all the channels that exist today to build our brand, promote our brand. And so when we are submitting a proposal, we already have that strong brand awareness and brand association with the client to better our odds of actually winning.
Was you and I were talking just before we hit record. I'm a big branding nerd. Like I do so much video work today, but brand is kind of how I got started.
Hmm.
And so, especially in AEC, I'm always curious to hear about, you know, especially with large firms, how they position themselves differently from the competition, how they set themselves apart, and how does JE Dunn think about the positioning side of brand?
And again, I would say this is probably another area that our industry has been somewhat lagging, really embracing marketing as, like I said, one of those core four functions within the business. And so for many years, I feel large brands like ours were very disparate. Everybody wanted to
Hmm.
be their own thing. Everybody wanted to be the local contractor, the guy with the pickup truck. And what we're realizing now is there is so much power and actually tangible value to a strong, unified brand. Being able to consistently deliver, make promises that you can stand on and deliver on those promises, whether you're delivering a project in Denver or delivering a project in Austin. It really does augment your brand, but it's taken us a little bit of time to get there. And I think that's where our industry is today, is really trying to focus on that unified brand promise and delivery.
I have to imagine being a large firm, especially, makes it challenging to have something like brand or positioning or even culture be consistent across different offices.
Mhm.
How has JE Dunn worked to ensure that, or do you just sort of like let the local offices do what they're going to do, or somewhere in between?
And honestly, it's always a work in progress. We've grown tremendously, from where I started in 2002 to where we are today, we were a $1.5 billion firm to an $8 billion firm. And so we've obviously grown tremendously, and it is hard to maintain that culture. I have to say, I give a lot of credit to our executive leadership team, our C-suite. They are incredibly accessible. They have regular rotations where they come to every single office and have that FaceTime with the people that are actually putting the work in place, that are doing all the behind the scenes work. And I think that helps to kind of lay the foundation for a consistent culture. And we also are very fortunate that we have a lot of tenured employees that can carry on that culture from project to project, even in remote locations. And so I would say the combination of really strong leadership that is very accessible to tenured employees who really believe in the culture and continue to carry that on has really made the difference for us.
I have to think like with mergers and acquisitions, especially that the culture challenges, the brand challenges are even bigger because you had something else before and now you're part of someone else larger. Has JE Dunn grown more by, shipping somebody off to a new city and opening a new shingle, or are you focused more on acquisitions?
I would say we're focused a little bit more on organic growth. So understanding where the market demand is, where we might have a good position and growing there. We have historically, acquired firms in the past, but as you've noted, that it can be a struggle really trying to align the two cultures. And we have such a strong existing culture, and in general, we've kind of fared better really growing offices organically in more recent years.
On my last episode, somebody had seeded a question with me, as she stated, she's our biggest fan, and is not someone I'm married to. So it's a different she. But she was talking about how, from her perspective, as being a leader in her firm, but also, so she's feeling pressure to do the right thing fiscally, to make the right financial challenge, but then also as a marketer, wanting to do the new thing and do the
Mhm.
cool thing and invest in a service or invest in a product or a piece of software or something. And she was just saying, hey, it's would be really interesting to hear how other people think about balancing those things when you have this sort of fiscal responsibility and also that marketers need to chase the shiny things. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, and it can be a tough one because I feel like we are just built to be curious. Marketers are just curious beings, and I think the growth that I've experienced being in this marketing operations role is I've really learned to analyze and apply the maximum amount of critical thinking to each move that we make. And so before we make any major investments, we do our due diligence. And so we make sure that we're interviewing key stakeholders, that we're properly gathering requirements, that we are creating a problem statement, and we're really assessing what is the ROI of this change before we really make any big moves forward. And especially in a big firm like ours, it's beyond the investment of the technology, where what is the people investment? We just rolled out Microsoft Dynamics. So we moved from a CRM that we had for 25 years into this new system. That meant that in addition to all of the build, implementation, testing hours, we had all the training and adoption hours, and that's still carrying on into 2026. And so those are all the considerations that you have to factor in. But I'm still a fan of just kind of the incremental exploring. But before you make any major investments, it definitely has to be done with a lot of planning and thought and methodically.
So for something like a major CRM implementation, are you bringing in consultants to help roll that out, or is that an internal thing where you're tasked with also doing all these other things?
So we did have a consultant that helped us build and implement the system. But as far as training and adoption, we did that all internally. I think we found, again, JE as a 100-year-old company, like I said, a lot of tenured employees. I think training from the people that are actually using it and understand our business really goes a long way for our folks. And then also just having that continuity of accessibility where someone knows that they can reach out to me or they can reach out to a member of my team and we can help them because we built we built the system, we built the training program.
Mhm.
So it is a large lift. I'm hoping to see our marketing operations team continue to grow because again, there's all those components that we have to contend with in addition to building and maintaining the technology.
How's that rollout going so far?
It's going really well. It's interesting where I think I probably romanticized what the outcome was going to look like, because honestly, on paper, I would say we did almost everything right as far as tons of communication, providing live virtual trainings, having open office hours, and kind of all the things that you would do to check off the list,
Mhm.
making sure they knew who to contact. But as we kind of close out the end of the year, I'm finding these pockets where people are still kind of surprised at what it's capable of, where it still feels very new to them, where I'm surprised that they're surprised. And so this is why I
Yeah.
say it's still carrying on into 2026. These truly are living systems that we're putting
Mhm.
in place. And so you're really never done evolving it and training and fostering adoption and supporting the stakeholders.
Yeah, I mean, CRM or asset management or content management, it really only is ever as good as the content you put in there.
Absolutely.
What are some of the things that you guys are doing to encourage people to use it and to actually put their data in the system?
I think when where the rubber hits the road is when people can pull information that they
Mhm.
find useful in there, and I think that that's what people are starting to see now. Some of the enhancements that we made moving over to this CRM is really be able to understand and better track why decisions are made. So if a certain competitor, so doing competitor tracking, and if certain competitors are winning over us more frequently than we feel like they should be, we can go in and see, okay, why are they winning? We've noted price as the primary factor. We've noted that they have stronger relationships with the clients and really being able to track that information because armed with that information, we can combat and neutralize and overcome the competition.
Kind of on the heels of wrapping the CRM implementation from a marketing operations standpoint, what's the next major thing that you are going to be tackling?
It is really pursuit content management. And so, there's a lot of products on the market right now for proposal production. I think we're really in a unique space in AEC, especially for firms like ours. And actually, I think a lot of our firms who are not low price bid type firms that
Mhm.
we really pride ourselves on being value based, value selection type firms that we need access to information, but we need the ability to also customize and that support and customization. So and we found that it's actually a more complex problem than just plugging in a technology that searches all your past proposals.
Mhm.
There's the whole process of creating, validated, federated gold star content. There's a process of searching all past proposals, weeding out, you know, maybe things that don't apply universally or not best in class. And then there's also the process aspect of it, where, like you said, proposals are such a big part of what marketers do. I think
Mhm.
there's so much opportunity for improvement and enhancement, but I also don't think we can get complacent. I know some people will say that proposals are table stakes, and I've never believed that. And I actually never want to get too far from proposals. They are the lifeblood. There's what keeps us sustainable. It gives me a job. It gives my whole team a job. So that's really important.
Yeah, the marketing and business development function, contrary to a lot of technical professionals, really is the thing that feeds the firm and keeps it alive. You
It
know,
does.
you can do really good work and nobody could know about it,
Yeah.
which means you won't get any work from that
Right.
really good work.
Right.
So like being able to share that story, I think is just so important for
hmm
firms to be able to win and continue to see your next 100-year birthday.
Absolutely.
Any other project specific things that would be interesting to unpack for the audience?
I would say another thing that we're seeing a trend in, and honestly, it's kind of an extension of customer relationship management, is the whole client experience. And I would
Mhm.
say experience management altogether.
Oh, sure.
And so there is that whole aspect of, starting fresh with a target client. Pre-positioning, making sure that there's that awareness and ultimate conversion and repetition. But part of that repetition process is knowing how we're performing and where we're falling short, where we're doing well, where should we lean in, where do we need to pick up, and that's what we're digging into a lot further right now. And so we do have a client experience program, but we're starting to extend that to really understand, what do our relationships with our trade partners and our design partners look like, so that I really think that's the differentiation right now is when you're really addressing the needs of all those stakeholders that are critical to us winning and delivering work.
Yeah, you said something that reminds me a lot of from a brand strategy standpoint. Uh, I'll talk to a firm's leaders and their marketing team and say, who do you think we are? Who are we trying to be to the market? How
Mhm.
do you think the market sees us? And then I'll go interview some of their clients and see, well, what do the clients actually think about them and what do they actually say? And it's interesting to see it's never a one-to-one. It never
No.
lines up perfectly, but to see those things that are resonating and then the things that aren't. And then,
Mhm.
so does that mean we want to push harder into those, or do we want to lean into the things that the market's already saying about us?
Right. No, and I think it's a great question, and it is quite fascinating that we're often surprised when someone might say to us, "Oh, I don't see JE Dunn as a sports builder," and then we go on the defense where we built the KC Current, we've done all these stadiums around the country. Sure, we don't really have a resume here, but we have experts that we can bring
Hmm.
to the table. But you have to be conscious of you have to deliver that message out. That's marketing at the
Yeah.
end of the day. You can't just know it; you have to evangelize it, and that's our job here.
Yeah. We were talking to a few guys a few weeks ago about wanting to move into a particular market here in town. And they're
Mhm.
like, but we don't really have any work in that space. I was
Mhm.
like, well, I don't know what step one looks like if you don't have anything to show for it, but it's
Yeah.
tricky.
It is really tricky, and sometimes you do have to find those adjacencies and smaller projects and kinda start building a small portfolio there, but, it is really tricky, that kind of gap between what you want to be and what you actually are and the steps that you need to take to get there.
Going back to the proposal thing for just a second,
Mhm.
are you seeing any clients or owners who are looking for next level things from a technical perspective on the proposals in terms of accessibility or, you know, uh, websites have been doing this for years. Like, so if somebody is visually or hearing impaired, that there are different ways that you can interact with the media. And I'm hearing that proposals are going to start going that direction, and maybe some of the public and municipal work has maybe already gone that route. Does that change the technology that you're looking at, or change how you guys are thinking about building those out?
I don't think it changes our approach to what we need to build out, because again, having the right solution allows us to see those trends before they happen. And even now, just in our discovery phase of we've already gone through the process of cataloging RFP questions over the last 3 years and cataloging all of our proposals and actually really leaning into AI and saying, what are clients asking for? What are the questions that are rising to the top? And interestingly enough, like sustainability has kind of taken a dip. It's not as
Mm-hmm.
prevalent as it's been. Where this is the power of AI is we can, instead of continuing to tout something that we think is a big differentiator, but it's like that's not really what our clients are asking, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe they will, but it kind of allows us to, react to what we've seen and also maybe do some predictive analysis as well as to what we think we might see moving forward. But again, I think the solutions that we're looking at that leverage AI will be nimble enough to be able to address the changing needs of the clients.
Yeah, it really helps to be listening to what the market is saying.
Absolutely.
Going back to the thing we were talking about from a pre-positioning standpoint, or where does what we say line up with what they say?
Mhm.
I have this story I tell all the time about. I was at a networking event very early in my career, and a guy who I knew who was an intern for another marketing agency was standing practically shoulder to shoulder with me, and we're having two different conversations. And I hear the guy he's talking to say, "Well, how are you different from Josh's company? Because they do kind of similar stuff." And he was like, "Oh, they do like really high end work for professional services companies, and we tend to work with startups." And I was like, "Wait, say that again." If my competitor is saying that about me, maybe I should say that about me.
Yeah,
So it was
wow, what
just
a
like
that's amazing,
such
what
a
an
golden
endorsement.
nugget. I mean,
Yes.
so here I am years later, sort of
Mhm.
leaning into high end work for professional services firms. But I think it's so helpful to be paying attention to
Yeah.
not only what the market's saying about you, what your what your prospects and clients are saying about you, what your competitors say about you, how they would say they're different from you, I think is really interesting
That would be
too.
really interesting. And so, as we continue to expand our listening program, our experience management program, that's not one that we've actually talked about, is really digging into what competitors are saying. But that would be a fascinating study.
You got to go hang out at more networking events and
Just listen in.
shoulder up
That's
next to your
right.
competitors and see how they tell the story. Um, I think the industry, maybe every industry is changing right now. Are there other ways that you're seeing AI or technology or anything else sort of accelerate how you're doing business or changing how you're looking at things from a marketing ops standpoint?
I will say I think technology is really transforming the way we're doing business overall. And so, not even just from a marketing standpoint, from an operations standpoint as well. Um, I think ultimately it will make us more efficient. It'll make us more communicative and aware and responsive to client needs. I would say the thing that I'm really conscious of right now, we've gone through a lot of change in the last couple of years. On the marketing operation side, launching a digital asset management system, launching a client experience system, launching a new CRM. I think there's a lot of technology fatigue, and frankly, I think people are, in my mind, I think they're less nervous about AI. I think they're more overwhelmed by it. And so,
Mm,
really figuring out how do we harness the power in the right way. So, going back to your comment about your last guest, where how do you stay focused on what
hmm
you're doing? And I think it does take that slowing down, really analyzing what is the problem you're trying to solve, and applying the right solution, and not grabbing at everything that's available.
My favorite parlor trick at the moment is when I have a question about AI, is asking AI the question that I
Hmm.
have about AI.
I know, it's really amazing, and again, I will say, like, I'm really just scratching the surface. I definitely have folks on my marketing operations team that are a little bit more, a little farther down the road with it, but it's amazing the power of it, where you can use it to kind of create first drafts of pieces after you interview
hmm
somebody, or you can use it to kind of frame out an experience survey, where you can cut that time down in that kind of original generation, and a lot. You can cut it down a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm currently enrolled in a YouTube class for, I do video professionally,
Mhm.
but YouTube is a whole other Rubik's Cube, like getting your video to actually be seen and be found and in search. And how do you use that to drive leads
Right.
specifically in their algorithm? And this particular instructor has built their own AI to help guide through things like thumbnails and titles and all these things that you think you're doing it right, and then to throw that over to the system and to get nuanced feedback on those kind of details. Um, I don't have results yet, but I hope to tell you in the future that it was a game changer.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I'm really curious about, where, say we're all using kind of similar prompts, for AI to develop our proposals. Do they start all
Yeah.
looking the same? Where if we're all putting in the client RFP and saying, what does this client really care about? And then we're responding to it, does everything start to be kind of carbon copy? And I think it'll be interesting to see what that looks like going forward. But all that to say, I still think that there is still that need for, critical thinking that only a
Mhm.
human can provide, and so maybe there's not really a risk of that, but that's just something I've been wondering, where if you're getting this kind of guidance and someone else is getting it, then isn't everybody at the top again? So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out.
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed using it more so as sort of a brainstorming partner of
Mhm.
like, hey, I want to do this end result. Here are three ideas that I have. Which one is going to be the stickiest for this particular audience or this particular need, and to help kind of shape where I'm going with
I
those
agree. I
things.
will say that's probably how I use it now as well, but again, I know I'm just scratching the surface, but it is a great, great starting point.
Do you feel like there are any other big things coming from a marketing perspective that, good or bad? What are you looking as the next 6, 12, 18 months, 10 years?
I think I guess this could be perceived as good or bad. I think that the more we get efficient, the marketing will look very different. Where we likely will need less people to pump out pursuits.
Hmm.
But I do think that opens up greater opportunity for market research, client intelligence, data analysis, visual storytelling, really understanding the client and delivering in a way that really speaks to them. And so I feel like we're going to move from less of a production model and more of a customized deliverable model.
Hmm. I loved how you were saying earlier, even how some of these tools have allowed you to spend more time on the strategy
Mhm.
side of things. I mean, imagine if you could crank out just as many RFPs or maybe twice as many RFPs, but put different thinking into it. And, how could you incrementally win a greater percentage of those?
Right. Absolutely. And so I think it will change what is required of a marketer. And so I think it's for the good. I think most marketers don't want to be stuck on the pursuit treadmill and just pumping the same thing out over and over again. I think they want to really spend time digging into the details and delivering those high quality pieces that really speak to our clients. So I think it's a good shift, but I can see there could be some apprehension around it.
I know you've got sort of fingers in a lot of the parts of marketing. Is
Mhm.
is video something that JE Dunn is leaning into, and is that anything that you're paying greater attention to?
We do lean into video. We find, especially on our social media channels, we get great interaction when it comes to videos, especially videos of our people. Um, I would say it's probably not something that, we've really mastered. I think that we're kind of dabbling in it like a lot of other firms are,
Hmm.
but we're continuing to explore it a little bit further and how we can really lean into it for things, beyond trying to win new work, but recruiting where, I always say this, even though I've been in the industry for a long time, I recognize that the, mindset of the decision makers and really just kind of like the preferences of decision makers is changing. A lot of them do rely on those digital inputs to get first impressions and kind of guide their decisions. Sure, they're not going to award you $100 million project because they saw a video or they think your Instagram feed is really entertaining, but it does leave an impression that affects how they perceive your brand.
Yeah, it's that, the know, like, and trust piece, I think, is huge with video. It's,
Mhm.
certainly real in person relationships, or you can't duplicate that, but you can give somebody an idea of if they think they like you
Right.
just by seeing you on screen.
Absolutely.
And I don't think there's anything else that gives you that same sort of potential shortcut, especially as our younger generations are moving into buyer or influencer roles. They're going to do that research in the way that they research everything else, which is probably with one thumb.
Right, right, absolutely, and, some of the things we've actually talked about, on a pursuit innovation standpoint, so going back to, trying to automate the things that we can and, not spend time on things that are kind of repetitive, kind of the general proposal things, but really developing those, but we have talked about, really kind of using mixed media within our pursuits and maybe using sound bites from people or short
Hmm.
form videos or, I know everybody's kind of been exploring like, VR and that sort of thing, but really thinking about how can we get people to interact with our content a different way?
Well, certainly when I have the time to respond to an RFP and it's not always something that I want to do,
Mhm.
I'd rather somebody say, "Hey, let's talk and see if it makes sense for us to hire you."
Absolutely.
But when there is that competitive bid sort of situation, um, I always love putting a video in the start of the response for the
Mhm.
proposal, which usually sounds something like RFPs suck.
Yeah.
And the reason they suck isn't because I don't want to fill out the document. Maybe I don't want to do that as my most favorite thing, but it's hard to buy from somebody that you don't know yet.
Yes.
And to think that you're going to look at the PDF and go, okay, I'll hire these guys because of this PDF. Like,
And it's
there's
it's
got to
hard
be more
from
to it than
it's
that.
hard from both sides. It's hard for us to pull it together and really try to get in the psyche of our client and deliver what they're looking for. And it's hard from a review standpoint. So on the marketing operations side, I've read through a number of RFPs just because that's how we select vendors. And it is
Mhm.
it is really challenging. And honestly, I don't feel like anybody wants to do it from either side. They just want to get to the project. They want to
Right.
get to the deliverable, the building that they're trying to build, the technology they're trying to implement. That's all they want to do at the end of the day.
I mean, as people on the whole, we tend to make decisions, whether we want to admit it or not, pretty emotionally, and
Mhm.
then we want to justify it with the data. So the document, the RFP kind of gives us the thing to be able to justify the decision. But yeah, I'm curious to see how that's going to evolve over the next few years.
I agree. I agree. And I think we're all always going to be human. And I think those emotional decisions will still happen. One of the things we have been seeing, again, I know we've been talking a lot about AI, but honestly, it's a hot topic for a reason because we're all
Hmm.
trying to figure it out. Is clients are actually starting to use it to evaluate proposals, and so I think going back to your comment about what people make decisions based on their emotions, I think it is what it's going to come down to, where it's okay, this is how AI scored it. This candidate talked about your firm, said your firm's name a lot. This one didn't, so maybe they score a little bit less, and so that's how you go into the interview. But then, someone knocks your socks off. That's probably who you're going to go with, as long as they're all equally qualified.
What other expectations are you seeing changing on the client side, or any trends in that area?
Um, honestly, I feel like brevity seems to be the thing lately. Where when I said I don't think anybody actually likes the process. I don't think the
Yeah.
client likes it. I don't think our side likes it. Like it's a tough process. I think the only good thing that comes from it, from our perspective, is we really get to know the client, know the project, and so you start developing that kind of emotional connection. But it's a very labor intensive process. So I'm really excited that we're working on streamlining it. And so, but I found that clients like they really do want the brevity. I think they're realizing that, like you said, especially if there's an interview process, as long as they know that you're qualified to do it, they're going to decide whether they like you or not in that interview process.
If you could get a hold of a young aspiring marketer who wants to work their way up in the AEC space and give them one golden piece of advice, what would that be?
That is a great question. Normally, my piece of advice to all marketers, whether they're new or they've been in this for a long time, is incremental progress is still progress. So celebrate every progressive moment. I think sometimes we can get mired down in the I'm not moving up fast enough. I don't, see a path for myself. Where again, this role that I have is not a role that I could have ever even dreamed for myself 20 years ago when I started in this industry. And so I would say that, that lesson, just kind of combined with the patience and being observant, you'll find your path forward. There's so much out there to still discover and do.
I think that's really great advice. I think my one of my biggest challenges is even as I achieve a thing, I'm sort of already looking on to the next thing, and I don't take the time always to celebrate and sit back and enjoy the moment.
Mhm.
So that incremental progress is still progress.
It
It's pretty
is.
great. Um, okay, it's time to get out your crystal ball. What's your bold prediction for the future of the AEC industry? Can be anything you want, marketing, operations, sales, BD, proposals.
I feel like I kind of touched on this already, where I do think the face of marketing is going to look very different. I believe that marketing is going to continue to be elevated as a strategic partner in that process, recognizing the impact of pre-positioning, brand advocacy, brand promotion, brand unity, and then also ensuring that we're speaking to our clients in a way that's really meaningful to them. There's so many inputs out there. It's very easy to ignore things that don't resonate with you, and so it is going to look very different. It's not going to be a production function as it's been in the past.
Do you have any particular asks or challenges for our audience that you'd like to leave them with today?
I guess my ask is to just continue to be curious as we naturally are. And this is where, we uncover these unexpected opportunities, whether you're on the BD or marketing side. It's that curiosity is what kind of wins the day all the time. So, uh, whether you've been in the industry for 5 years or 35 years, I don't think we should ever lose that.
Well, before we let you go, tell our audience where we can find more about you online and more about JE Dunn.
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn, Michelle Ott with JE Dunn. And then to find more information about JE Dunn, you can follow us on all the social media channels except for TikTok. We don't have that one. And then at jedunn.com.
I don't know, JE Dunn dudes in hard hats. Maybe there's a
I know. We keep talking about it. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
That's right. Well, thanks for joining us today on another episode of the Bold Brand Show. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today on the Bold Brand Show. For all of today's show notes and links to our sponsors, head over to boldbrand.show. Be sure to subscribe to our email newsletter where I'll update you on the latest episodes and other exciting things happening at Bold Brand. If you like today's episode, do me a favor and share this episode with a colleague. Over at boldbrand.show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts, including YouTube, where you can watch full versions of each episode and join the conversation by commenting below. The Bold Brand Show is produced by yours truly, Josh Miles, and is a product of Bold Brand LLC, a branding and video agency for AEC firms based in Denver, Colorado. Visit boldbrand.com to learn more, or hit that orange button up top to schedule a time to chat about your branding or video project. Catch us next time where we chat with another bold innovator in the AEC industry. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.